This is our Mark V Toyota Supra Carbon Fiber Edition, but it doesn't run. For the last few weeks, we have been rebuilding this awesome Supra with some pretty bad mechanical damage.
What is that? Is that water?
Oh, and it never came with keys as well. We finished rebuilding the car, and of course, we had to add some modifications to it. So we threw a bunch more carbon fiber at this thing, and it's looking insanely sick. We then loaded it up onto a trailer and took it to the dealership, where we found out to program some keys, we have to replace our body domain control module. So we left the dealership and found this module that, by the way, is very hard to find, and it came with 2 fresh keys as well. So we went ahead and we got those things replaced. So now we are loading it up once more to hopefully get the keys and module programmed, and we are putting some precautions in the car so they don't start it when we aren't around. With all that done, hopefully everything else on the Supra goes to plan. Alright guys, so it's about 3 weeks later now, and right about now we were supposed to be cutting to the clip of where we're about to fire up the Supra at the shop, but we're at the dealership, guys. This is where I left the car about roughly 3 weeks ago, and the entire process, it was only supposed to take about 2 hours of work on this car to get it done, and right now it's 3 weeks later and the car is still not done. And I'm gonna tell you guys the story. Basically, we have to do some stuff on the car, and I'm gonna tell you guys why this car has been here for so long and the stuff that I've been hearing over the course of these 3 weeks. And honestly, I think I got scammed. They were having trouble programming the car because there's one component not working with the car, and that would be the front radar sensor. Oh, this was $3,500, guys. But you know, I whipped out the old negotiation skill, dusted them off, and I got them knocked down to $2,400 for this thing. I don't even know how that happened, but there's the new one. And it's gonna go right here, and we aren't even going to have to pay for any installation fee. Just programming, which was supposed to cost about 400 bucks, but right now we are at almost 1,000. So I'm not sure what's going on with all that. Yeah, this was a lot of money, guys. I wanna cry. Okay. But we're gonna get this installed, guys, and hopefully next clip is us picking up this car and doing the first start and drive on it. But I feel like I got a little bit scammed, you know. I don't think it was supposed to be this much money to get stuff programmed on this car, and I'm sure somebody who is very experienced in programming cars could get this to work too, but I'm sure like it's all good. We're gonna get this car running though, so it's all good, and see you all in the next clip. All right, guys, so it's actually like 4 or 5 days later, and I got a call saying that the car's ready for pickup, guys. This feels absolutely amazing, guys. We're picking up the car today. It almost feels like we're picking up a brand new car because it's been so long since I've seen it, and we're getting 2 new keys with it, and it's basically a whole new car now. It's basically our first time even seeing it. I'm picking up new floor mats from the parts department for it too, so it's literally like buying a brand new car. Super excited, but there's much to talk about this thing, guys. Let's go. These are going to be working now. I'm so happy.
Exciting stuff.
Second row towards the back is where the car is. See you all at the shop. All right, back at the shop, and now we got to get this thing unloaded, guys. It took a lot of work and a lot of battles to get this car to where it is right now. There's a lot of troubles at the dealership, but none of that stuff matters right now, guys. I am insanely happy right now. I haven't stopped smiling since, and I'm so ready to start this thing, guys. I accidentally almost cranked it over at the dealership, but I cut it off immediately. I was trying to put an accessory mode and I accidentally had my foot on the brake. It did crank, but it did not start yet. I cut it off, so we're still good on that. First start still has to happen on this thing, guys.
He's climbing through the window.
Not a pretty angle, but...
Well, at least you're in now.
Vroom, vroom! Alright, let's take it off. Get back here.
Check that out, no lights. Here we go. Let's go, Tyler. Sweet!
That worked well. Man, them ramps can be sketchy. E-brakes on. All right. Man, everything's working. Ah. You guys have been waiting a long time for this. I have been waiting a long time for this. I've been updating you guys on Instagram about everything that's been happening to this car while it was gone. So if you aren't following me on Instagram, be sure to go down below and follow that account because there's lots of inside scoops and sneak peeks previews. And I occasionally hop on there and chat to you guys too. So it's always a good time out there. So, you know, come to the link down below and have some fun with us. But it's time, guys. My heart is pounding. I feel like it's going to pop out of my chest.
Me too. It's a big moment.
This is scary, guys. Keep in mind, this engine was flooded at some point, and we have fixed it to our knowledge. We believe that everything on this car is working now. When they programmed this car, everything seemed to be working and plugged in and everything programmed correctly. Because on these cars, if something is left unplugged, you'll have an issue with programming, so it seems like everything went well. So we plugged in everything that was unplugged. This car was a mess when we got it, guys. Never done anything like this before. We've done accident damaged cars, but there's no accidents on this car. This thing was just completely stripped. Completely stripped. I'm like losing my breath. But here we go, guys. Moment of truth. I'm on the edge of my seat. You guys are on the edge of your seat. Let's see if this thing starts up. I'm so scared. Here goes nothing. I don't think it's getting spark.
Do you think the hood's open? That's why.
No, it's cranking. Crank no start. It's got fuel, ignition, all that stuff. Either timing or spark, I think. It's not out of time. It can't be. It's probably spark. One of the spark plugs isn't firing. It could be that first one that didn't have a coil pack on it when we got the car. It could have gone ruined from water or something.
You think the coil pack went out?
The spark plug in the first cylinder. All right, we put battery power to it. Maybe it's just a little low. I'm not sure. Let's give it another shot. If it's not the spark plugs, I'm gonna lose it. I've already lost it. So it's the next day here now, and we did just pick up some spark plugs for the car. But real quick, I also brought the code reader with me, and I scanned the DME in the car, and I'm thinking a couple things, okay? I'm thinking either the spark plugs are causing the car not to start, or maybe something happened in the programming and the immobilizer on the car may have not gotten programmed correctly. So I came to scan the car to see if there's any codes, and if you look right here, these are all intermittent. I'm sure they can clear, but this one right here says permanent. Electronic immobilizer, response telegram implausible, and then right here, attempt to start the engine while electronic immobilizer active detected. So the immobilizer is active. I'm gonna see if I can deactivate it through the scanner. Now that we have keys, I was able to get it into diagnostic mode, so I was able to scan it now. So pretty cool stuff. I'll keep you guys updated. Well, I am absolutely defeated, guys. I've tried everything for like the past 5 hours, and I cannot get anything on this car working to start up. I'm thinking it might have to go back to the dealership. I have no idea right now. We're gonna have to talk with the dealership. Their systems are down right now, but hopefully the systems come back online because it's getting pretty interesting, the process of this car. But hopefully we can get that immobilizer fixed. And then there's something strange going on with the odometer that I'm gonna have to show you guys. Ooh, a microphone. How official. Okay, time to get serious, guys. So I have like 6 pages right here. I literally wrote up like a bunch of notes and stuff here that I wanted to talk about because I'm sure you've all been wondering why the Supra was gone for so long, guys. And honestly, the experience for me and this car at the service center was far from normal. Like, there's a lot of stuff wrong with this car, guys, and it's honestly worse than what it was when we dropped it off. There is a huge reason to why this car won't even start, and honestly, it's got to go back. So the dealership was giving me a lot of headaches with this car, and honestly, everything that they just kept saying to me or wanting me to do for it, and even though I knew some of the stuff that they were telling me was not right, I was kind of just letting it slide. And I honestly wasn't even going to talk about my experience at this dealership. That was until the fraud occurred on this car. So there's some pretty serious fraud on this car right now, on the gauge cluster actually. And if the dealership does not fix it, then that is fraud. But I know a lot of you guys were wondering what my experience was at the dealership, and you guys wanted updates on this car. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share it with you guys, because this honestly was a pretty insane experience at this dealership for me. It was pretty bad, but I'm gonna try to stay positive through this whole process, guys. So let's start from the beginning, the very beginning of the first time when we took this car to the dealership. So the first time I took it to the dealership, I was told that all I needed was a key. I could just bring a key in and they could program that key. I don't need anything else, just a key. So I brought the car in to get the keys programmed, and I was told they could do it. But then after waiting there at the dealership for a while, I was told that I needed a bunch of ridiculous parts. I was told I needed an engine ECU, a BCM. Basically, they just kept listing a bunch of expensive computer modules on this car, computer modules that were really, really expensive that I knew I did not need. And when I questioned these components that they're telling me I needed, eventually they knocked it down to me just needing a BCM, which in some cases can be true. Sometimes you do need a new BCM when programming keys, at least on Supras. But I know of people that didn't even need to do that. They could just get pre-programmed keys. They also said that the tech that's going to be working on the Supra is the best of the best. If there's anybody who can do it, it's this guy. So I was like, okay, so they seem pretty confident about this guy that can do it. So I was like, all right, well, if they seem so confident, if they're saying I need a BCM, even though they were saying I need a bunch of ridiculous stuff before, if it's just a BCM they're saying I need, I'll go ahead and spend some time, try to find that part, because it was on back order and no one could get it. I found that part, guys, and we installed it. As you guys saw in the last video, we did install that part after we found it. So after we installed the part, I called the dealership, letting them know, hey, the part is installed in the car now, because I told them I would be installing it. And I told them it's installed now and I'm going to be coming in to get it programmed. But then the person who answered the phone was somebody else. They weren't even my service advisor. And they were telling me they wouldn't even touch the car because I installed the module myself, and that the director of the dealership would be calling me and letting me know if they're going to proceed with working on this car or not, which was super insane for me to hear. I didn't even know that they could even act like that. But I waited that day because I was supposed to be getting a call from the director an hour later, and I never got a call from the director. And I come to find out that the director doesn't even exist. Like, there's no such person as that. It was all just a complete lie to deter me from taking the car in, from somebody who wasn't even my service advisor. I'm assuming the reason that person who answered the phone, who wasn't my service advisor, probably said that to me because they wanted to get them to install the module so they could get me with the labor hours of installing it. Because as you guys remember in the last video, they told me they would have to tear the entire dash apart to install that BCM, and we all know now that that wasn't the case. I was able to do that just by removing the simple little kick panel under the dashboard. I didn't even have to remove anything on the dash. But then I eventually got a hold of my service advisor by talking to a bunch of people in the service center and getting them to talk around a little bit and getting my service advisor for me. And eventually he knew that I was going to be installing the BCM, so when I told him that it's ready to go, he told me bring the car in and they'll go ahead and get that programmed. It was only supposed to take about 2 hours, he was saying. It wouldn't take too long. A lot of weird stuff going around there, but again, I just let all of that slide. I didn't even mention any of that to my service advisor because all I care about is just getting this thing working. So obviously, after knowing that the BCM is installed, my service advisor, they told me all I needed was that BCM. But then he comes up to me and says, do you have new keys as well? And I thought to myself that earlier in the experience at the dealership, when I was told I needed a BCM, the tech told me all I needed was the BCM and I didn't need new keys. He said he could do it with the used keys. But I kind of thought ahead and I did get new keys because it came with the module. So I just told him, yeah, I have new keys. But that was really weird because if I hadn't have gotten the new keys, then they wouldn't have even programmed it then either, which was really strange to me because before they said they would be able to do it with the used keys. Yeah, I didn't want to make a big deal about it, so I just said, yeah, I got new keys. I didn't really worry about all the other stuff they said to me before about being able to do it with the used keys. Then the car is in for programming, and a few days later, I am asked where I found the module and keys because they are on back order. And from the last video, you guys know that I found that module on eBay, but it was Toyota OEM and it was brand new. But all I told the dealership was that it's new and it's Toyota OEM, and they insisted on finding out where I got them. And I'll be honest with you guys, I did not want to tell them that I got it from eBay because I knew that if I told them that, they would not want to work on it. They would probably make a big problem out of me not buying it from like a Toyota dealership or something. Then they proceeded to tell me that the module that I installed in the car is faulty, which was a whole bunch of baloney. That is not true at all. All they wanted me to do was order a module through them and then wait for it to be released off back order, which from them I think it was like $4,000, and they wanted me to wait for all that stuff to come in. So that was really weird, but I told them like, hey guys, there's nothing wrong with the module or anything, and there was a lot of back and forth with me trying to tell them that there's nothing wrong with the module. It's brand new. It's completely fine. I'm basically trying to convince them that I don't need to buy a new one from them. A couple days later, they're like, hey, you know what, Rayyan? You were right. Our software was just having issues. So their software was just having issues and they were trying to convince me to buy a new module, which is insane. So I'd say that was a major bullet dodged. But one thing I have to say is when dealerships work on a car, and if that car is under warranty, if it's warranty work, then the dealership only gets paid a set amount to work on the car because that's how much the warranty thinks that the job is worth. But if it's not warranty work, then they can charge however much they want, kind of like how they did to me, where they just want to get you on insane parts that you need, insane labor rates, like insane hours. So since this car wasn't warranty work, I feel like they're trying to take a little bit more advantage of me than a dealership would if it was warranty work, because I have had warranty work done on cars before and they never ever bug you like that because they can't go against what the warranty wants to pay. But when it's just no warranty work, then they can try to say whatever they want to get more money out of you, which I feel like was kind of happening there just from everything that happened leading up to this point here. So with that being said, a couple more days went by ever since the whole software issue, and I asked for an update and they said they were having issues with programming and they have to order new software from Toyota. Keep in mind, I was told this will all be done in the same day in 2 hours, and at this point, it's already over a bunch of days. I think we're like a week in now at this point. So then the software comes in and I asked for an update. Guess what? The tech called off, which is fine. You know, some people need a rest day sometimes. It's just I don't know how much of the stuff they're telling me is actually true. So the days are just racking up, you guys know. The car's sitting there. It's getting rained on because they wouldn't let me park it inside. The boss would not let me park it inside. He was saying that it has to be outside, which was also kind of strange. So I'm very worried about our dear Supra just sitting outside of the dealership where anybody can honestly mess with this thing. So honestly, I was pretty worried about this car, guys, just sitting out there. So the next day I called and apparently we are still waiting for a few questions. So they had to ask Toyota a couple of questions and they're waiting for Toyota to respond to those questions. And instead of resending the questions, they just chose to keep waiting. And honestly, guys, they waited a long time. It would have been quicker if they just sent them a letter by mail. But they got their answers that they needed. It took a couple days. It took like almost a week, I think. And I get a call saying that they need a field tech to help them program the car, which I thought the guy who was working on this car from earlier, how I mentioned, they said that he was the best of the best. And they seem to be having a lot of issues with this, that they needed to call a field tech out. So apparently over the 2 weeks that this car was there was no progress even made from the best of the best technician, which is fine, you know, if you ran into some issues here and there. But I was not informed of any of this until 2 weeks later when they needed a field tech, which is kind of strange that they didn't tell me that. And, you know, as these days are going by, they just keep charging me. So then the next day the field tech comes in and I'm told they made a lot of progress, but they can't program the car anymore at the moment, because I need a new expensive radar sensor in the front of the car. So you guys see where I'm going with this? There's either an issue with something, or I need to buy something expensive, or, you know, I'm not sure how much of the stuff they're actually telling me is true. This, however, I feel like with the right amount of programming, it could have been done. But I think they were just giving me issues with it. And as you guys remember, we did put a used radar sensor in here and it worked and it fitted up correctly and it plugged in and everything. I got it used and it should have worked because all it needed was calibration. But I wasn't going to argue with the dealership, and my service advisor sent me a list of sensor part numbers that I needed so I can go ahead and get that stuff put in the car. And I was examining from what he had in there, and there were 2 parts in there that I didn't even need, which was not nice. They were trying to charge me for stuff that I didn't even need for that sensor. And then they also wanted to charge me 5 hours of labor just to install it and calibrate it. I saw that the part was at their dealership, which I don't know if that is a coincidence or not. I'm thinking there's no way that that's a coincidence, because I've ordered so many Supra parts there and none of them were ever in stock. And of all things, it's a super expensive cruise radar sensor that they have in stock. My parts guy even said that they don't stock Supra parts, and he was pretty shocked that they even had that one in stock. But anyways, I went to buy it because it said it's $2,400 on their site. And when I went to get it, it was $3,500. And I was like, what's different? Why is the price so much more, $1,100 more? And it wasn't until a lot of back and forth, I was told that the online price takes away a service fee. And I was like, how is a service fee $1,100? Absolutely insane. But that's okay, guys, because as you guys remember from, I think it was episode 2 on this car, Aiden in parts, he helped me out a lot with the manager, and he got them to charge me the online price on that radar sensor because they had it in stock, and supposedly I didn't need that part according to what the technician and service advisor was telling me. So it was just a huge headache to get that sensor, guys, without even having to charge that ridiculous fee, which honestly still hurts my brain to this day, that much money for just a fee. But I was probably charged that insane service fee on all the other parts we got for this car, and I didn't find out until this whole thing. But I got the part installed with permission because since we did all this work on the car, I wanted to be the one installing all the parts on the car as well. So I went ahead and I got outside, and I realized when I'm walking up to like the front of the car right here, I realized that there is a bracket just sitting right here on the floor. And it was a bracket from the transmission that holds the under tray under the car, like the splash shields. And it was completely bent and just ripped out from under the car. And it's just on the floor right here. When I looked under the car, the reason they took that out is because the wood that was under the car from the previous owner of this car, he put wood under the car to keep it in neutral. For whatever reason, the dealership took that wood out and they replaced it with, of all things, a wire brush to keep the car in neutral. There was nothing wrong with the way the car was being kept in neutral the first time. I feel like the reason they just did it was to charge me more labor for no reason, which was honestly insane. I don't know why they're messing with things that don't even need to be messed with. It was honestly very, very strange. But you know, I just went ahead and I let that slide, and I saw that the bracket had some parts broken on it, so I just went inside the parts department and I placed the order for those. I didn't even want to make a big deal out of like them taking that part off and breaking some stuff. I just ordered it, and they never even told me about that, by the way. If I never came that day, that bracket probably would have gotten discarded and I would have probably never even known about that. So that was also not very nice. So then, guys, as I'm installing this front radar sensor, my tech comes out to say hi, and my tech said to me that they will resume working on the Supra in 4 more days and that it should be done. They just need to order a radar calibration kit so they could calibrate that new sensor that I put in the car. So 4 days later, I get a call like 2 hours before closing saying that the car is ready and that it had been done for a while. Then the tech comes on the phone saying, and this is what I say, like when they tell me the car is done, the tech, I'm quoting what he said to me. He said, so there's a bunch of components that needed access to program. I don't know what that means. I've never seen it before, but I wouldn't worry about it. Quote. That's what he said. And then he like listed all the components that he needed access, like the headlights, the ABS, and like 6 other things on that list. But he said not to worry about it as he's never seen it before. Like that's literally what he said. So I shouldn't have done this, but I took his word for it because he said not to worry about it, and if there's an issue, they will fix it. But I hadn't seen the car in 3 weeks, guys, and I really wanted to make a video on it. So the tech said, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't start. So I went and got a trailer and I picked the car up. I've probably spent like $400 on just trailers on this whole experience, on just getting the keys programmed on this car. But then I made it to the dealership, and the car for some reason was pushed all the way down to the back of the parking lot, even though it was where I parked it for 3 weeks. They just left it there, but all of a sudden when I'm picking it up, it's like all the way down that hill, which made it very hard to pick up the car with the trailer. But I got the trailer fitted back there, and I get in the car and I noticed that interior components in the passenger side footwell, in the trunk, and behind the driver's seat, all that stuff was taken apart and not even put back together. So I spent some time in that parking lot just putting the car back together on the interior, which was, again, very strange. I don't know why they released the car back to me like that. So I get back to the shop and we go to start it, but it didn't start, guys. And I got a code for headlight leveling malfunction, which is what keeps the car's like headlights leveled like too high, too low. It's actually pretty cool. And I know that those were working when we had the old BCM in the car because we've seen it turn on and it actually looks pretty cool when it works. So I guess the reason it was throwing that code is probably because it wasn't programmed correctly. Maybe instead of listening to what the tech was saying about how I shouldn't worry about the stuff that he doesn't know what it means in the programming, I probably should have worried about that, because that wasn't even the end of problems, guys. I thought the engine wasn't starting because of maybe fuel or spark. So I went and got spark plugs, but before I installed them, I just scanned the car real quick, and that is where all the problems have started. I get a code for immobilizer is active, which is a theft system within the car, and if it's active, the car will not start. They never programmed that or turned it off. But then while I was trying to figure out what's going on with the immobilizer, I see that the programming on the ECU or DME, which is this module right here under this cover, I noticed that that wasn't even programmed correctly, guys. And there were so many codes in the car and so many things didn't work, like the interior lights. there's just so many things not working. And after 3 weeks, and after how I was treated about like this whole situation, about how many things I had to get for the car and how misleading it was on when the car would even be done, it really hurt to get the car back in this condition. It's honestly worse than what we left it in, guys. Like, at least the original BCM we had in the car, it worked. We just needed keys, and just to get keys, they made it so complicated and saying we needed to do all these things just to get keys. After all those problems, I was still kind of okay with it. I was like, okay, they'll be able to fix it. At least I'll just have to call them back and go through towing the car back there. I was okay with it, and I wasn't really that, like, I was like a little bit frustrated, but I wasn't too upset about it. But when I got really upset is when I figured out about the fraud that had occurred with this car. So about this fraud, I was never informed of this, and the car was released back to me. The car had the cleanest report ever, guys. No accidents, no mileage discrepancy, clean title, and it was dropped off with 9,165 miles. My odometer has been reset, guys. It now has 3 miles on it. The odometer was completely reset, guys. This car has 3 miles on it now. When I said that it feels like we're getting a new car, this is not what I meant. Okay, so I was never informed of this, guys, and I found out by myself, and whatever happened to cause this was never approved by me. If it was the BCM that caused it, then they should have corrected it with their computer or carried data over from the original BCM, because it's fraud if they don't fix it, guys. I'm sure of it. And all we wanted was working keys, and they made it so complicated. I called them, and all of a sudden they can't help me right now because their systems are down and they don't know when they'll even be back up, which is true, guys. I found out that their system is a software called CDK, which will not impact their ability to program cars or anything. Is just for writing down like customer states, this is wrong with my car type of stuff, you know. And it's for like papers and billing out customers. So they still would be able to work on the car, but they're trying to use that as saying that they can't help me right now. I'm thinking the odometer may store mileage. If it doesn't store the mileage, then the BCM does. This is the original BCM right here, and it's completely fine, and it can be used to restore the correct mileage on the car. Because I saw that legally dealers are required to burn mileage from the original BCM to the new one if the BCM is what caused the mileage to be reset. Because if it did cause it to be reset, why is it 3 miles and not 0? I don't know. I also don't know how many shady things have happened with this whole situation of the car being there without me knowing. I already know I was forced to buy a lot of stuff I didn't need. And I definitely did pay way too much money for the labor on this car, and none of the programming was even done correctly. So they definitely scammed me. I'm sure of that. I just tried not to go against what they were saying because I don't have any BMW or Toyota dealerships near me. And if I ever questioned anything to them about what they were saying on this car, they would just tell me to go and ask BMW what they think about the whole situation. And BMW doesn't have access to program Supras. And they say only thing they can do is basic maintenance, like oil changes and things like that. And my Toyota dealership says that as far as programming goes, they do that via the satellite. So yeah, BMW cannot help. It's only Toyota that can do it. So I really couldn't really go against much of what they were saying. And I'm sure some of the things they said were somewhat true. But after all the money and time to have the car back in worse condition definitely makes me feel a little bit more skeptical about what really happened there. And I don't want to say exactly how much it cost at the service center because quite frankly, I am a little bit embarrassed by that. But it seems that they didn't know how to do the work on this car, and they seem very unprepared for saying that they could do it in 2 hours, and it took 3 weeks. And it's like this, it doesn't even start, guys. If I knew all this would happen, I would have chosen to do something else to get the keys. I know you can get pre-programmed keys for like $400, but I didn't know where to get them. My dealer said they used to do that, but instead they chose to give me this hard process to get keys. And I'm sure I could have found someone to get pre-programmed keys for this car, but that doesn't even matter anymore now because the modules on this car are so weirdly programmed that they're not even talking to each other now. So now the programming has to be done on this car. Now I really can't go anywhere else to get keys. The car will be fixed. I just hope that the dealership can fix it properly. Back to the part where I called them to fix these mistakes, and they said they can't help me right now due to CDK. So I called a bunch more and they didn't pick up the phone, guys. And eventually they did answer, and I explained all the problems on the car and asked if I can drop it off. They said they won't be able to work on the Supra, guys, for 2 more weeks, which is honestly better than never. So this car is going to be going back to the dealership, guys. This car's going to be going back to the dealership, guys, in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, it'll just be in the shop here. I'm going to love seeing this thing around. I just wish we could drive it. I also brought up the idea that I have the original BCM and photos of all the codes that we pulled up in the car. and I told them that I'm gonna send those all to them. I leave the BCM in the car too, and if they need those things, then they can have them, just to point them in the right direction and to burn mileage from this module to the other if they need to do that. If they can't just input it, then they have this one right here. But guys, I really apologize for not having a video out sooner. It took so long to have the car back, and unfortunately it's gonna be a while again until they fix all of these mistakes on the car. At least I hope that they can fix these mistakes, and at least I hope that they were mistakes. But I know you guys really wanted to see it run. I also did want to see this car run, and I just wanted to finish up this entire build, guys, before making videos on all the other builds that we have here. But this car will have to go back, get programmed correctly, have the mileage fixed, and they better not charge me for that, because I already paid once to have it done correctly, and I probably paid way too much for that as well. But I don't think they should charge me for something like that where it's not even done correctly. But hopefully everything goes well. Keep you all updated. But we have some insane videos dropping soon now, guys, on the Hellcat and on the Corvette, because since this car is gonna be going for a while, I guess we're just gonna have to drop videos on other builds, which is fine. I thought this would get sooner, which is why we didn't have a video out for a while. It was honestly supposed to be done a while ago, guys, but they were just so misleading. So it's going to be gone, and as soon as this car comes back, we will post videos on this car literally as soon as we get it. So hopefully it gets done quickly, guys. But no hate to that service center or to that dealership. I was just sharing what my experience was like there, because I know some of you guys wanted to know what my experience was like with the Supra there. But honestly, in this situation, guys, all I care about the most is getting this car running and being 100% programmed and make awesome videos for you guys on it. That's my experience at the service center, at this dealership, guys. So Supra will be leaving soon, but it'll be back better than ever. So go ahead, guys, and follow the Instagram account. I'll have that link down below. I'm gonna post a bunch of updates on there on the Supra while it's gone, and I have been posting a lot of updates on the Supra as well. Before all this happened, leading up to this point, there's been a lot of updates on there as well. So I'll have the link down below. Go ahead, check it out, and drop a follow if you do. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're loving the Supra build, be sure to go down below, hit that like button. While you're at this, a shiny red subscribe button that you should click. But that is all for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I apologize for not having a video out sooner, but I will see you all extremely soon in the next one. Bye. All right, so I'm gonna pick up the script now. I know it was a really long story, guys, and I try to remember as much of it as I could, but I probably did miss a couple things here and there, but I tried to get the most of it down. It really hurt. Writing the script really tickled my brain. It really made my head hurt a little bit just thinking about all this stuff that's happened in the past. But I really love this car, guys, and I'd probably do it all over again to have this car. So yeah, that's it on that whole story there. I know it's super long, but if you guys stayed till the end, then you are a real one. And put in the comment section, comment the word Supra, so I know that you guys listened to that whole story. But yeah, guys, yeah.